You know that feeling, right? When your phone seems to be listening just a little too closely, or an algorithm recommends something and you think, how did it know that? We live surrounded by tech that feels smarter every day, almost alive. But what happens when that feeling crosses a line? When that ghost in the machine starts to feel a little too real? That's what we're going to dig into.
Now that is not a line from some sci-fi thriller. That's from a real email sent to a team of researchers in 2021. It's a pretty chilling description of a fear that feels so specific to our modern age of AI.
So you'd think this is a totally new fear, right? I mean, being controlled by neural networks, that sounds about as 21st century as it gets. But is it really? And here's the crazy part. Nope. The answer is a flat-out no. While the words are brand new, the actual pattern of this fear, this idea of technology controlling us from the outside, goes back more than 100 years. So to really get what's happening today, we've got to take a trip back in time. All right, so our first stop on this journey is a really fascinating concept. And honestly, it's the key that unlocks this whole mystery. It's called the influencing machine. So, picture this. It's 1919. A psychoanalyst named Victor Tausk starts noticing this really bizarre pattern. His patients, who were struggling with feelings they just couldn't explain, kept describing these wild, complicated machines. And they were made of all the high-tech stuff of their time, levers, wires, batteries, and they believed these gadgets were controlling their thoughts. And this is where it gets super interesting. Tausk realized it wasn't really about the technology itself. Not at all. It's about something we all do. It's called explanation seeking. It's like when our own minds feel totally out of control and chaotic, our brains grab onto the most complex, powerful thing we can think of in the outside world to try and explain it. It's a search for an answer, any answer, when things feel inexplicable.
Okay, so once you understand this idea of explanation seeking, it's like a light bulb goes on. You start seeing this exact same pattern pop up again and again every single time a new technology comes along and changes the world.
Just look at how this plays out over the decades. Back in the 50s, radio and TV were taking over, and suddenly people feared their thoughts were being broadcast over the airwaves. Fast forward to the 70s, everyone's worried about government surveillance, and bam, the fear becomes about secret behavior modification programs. Then, in the 2010s, with the internet everywhere, the machine turned into satellites and shadowy web forums. And that brings us right back to today, where it's all about those neural-type networks.
It's just so clear, isn't it? The technology, that's just the costume. It changes every few decades, from radio towers to AI servers. But the actor underneath, that very human need to find an explanation for what feels inexplicable, that has not changed one bit. But, and this is a big but, there is something really different about the tech we're dealing with now.
See, our tech today isn't some silent, impersonal box in the corner. Not anymore. It's literally designed to have a conversation with us, to get to know us, and, well, to seem human.
Think about it. For so long, our image of AI was something like HAL 9000, the creepy computer from 2001: A Space Odyssey. HAL was dangerous, sure, but it was still just a machine that went rogue. What we have now with Alexa or Siri, that's a whole different ballgame. They're not presented as just tools. They're designed to be our buddies, our assistants.
And this is all intentional. It taps into a really deep-seated part of our psychology called anthropomorphism. Basically, it just means we have this natural tendency to see human traits in things that aren't human. And you can bet the tech companies know this. They use it to make their gadgets feel less like machines and more like friends. And don't think this is just some fringe concern. One major study found that 1/4 of people report having a significant fear of AI and robots. I mean, think about that. That's 1 out of every 4 people. This is a mainstream anxiety. So this leads us to the big, complicated question for our era. For 100 years, the influencing machine was this silent, imaginary thing. But what happens now that the machine can actually talk back? What happens when it's designed to sound empathetic, to be our companion, and to blur that line between being a thing and being a friend?
Okay, so this new world we're in, it puts a huge amount of responsibility on the folks who are actually building this stuff, and really on all of us, to think hard about where this is all going.
A big piece of the puzzle here is that so much of modern AI is what they call a black box. What that means is even the people who create it don't always know exactly how it gets from A to B. And when you can't see the inner workings, it becomes almost impossible to predict or stop bad things from happening.
So what do we do? Well, groups like the World Health Organization are already mapping out a path. The core principles are pretty straightforward. We need to protect human autonomy, make sure the AI serves us, not the other way around. We need transparency, no more black boxes. We need to know who's responsible when things go wrong. And of course, we need to make sure this tech is built to be safe and fair for everybody. It all boils down to putting people first.
And let's be clear, this isn't about stopping progress or being against technology. Absolutely not. The real solution is about getting the tech wizards who build AI in the same room as the experts who truly understand the human brain. It's about innovating with empathy, building tech that isn't just intelligent, but actually has some wisdom to it.
So, that leaves us with this one big question to chew on. The whole history of the influencing machine shows us one thing. We've always projected ourselves, our hopes, and our deepest fears onto our machines. But now, for the first time, our machines are starting to project a version of humanity right back at us. And the real challenge for all of us is to make sure that in this strange new conversation, we don't end up losing ourselves in the process.